Hi Math 7 students, we're going to start with Chapter 6. Today we're going to combine Lessons 1 and 2 in one video. We're going to be solving equations, so let's start by defining an equation. An equation is a sentence stating that two quantities are equal. So if we look at example 1, we've got 30 equal to x minus negative 12. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to rewrite my subtraction. I'm going to make this 30 equal to x plus the opposite of negative 12 being positive 12. So that minus and negative got cleaned up into be plus a positive 12. So my equation looks a little bit more manageable. The goal of solving equations is to get the variable alone and to figure out what replacement for the variable makes the statement true. And most of you can do this by mental math. You can anticipate that you're going to need to get rid of the 12. It's on the same side as the x. So in order to do that, we're going to do the inverse operation from addition. So we're going to be doing subtraction. And to get rid of 12, we want to minus 12 to both sides. Because whatever we do to one side of the equation to keep it balanced, we have to do it to the other side. So when I do minus 12 to both sides, a couple things happen. The first is, let's start on the right side of the equal sign. This plus 12 gets zeroed out. And I just write a big Z over it for 0 because 12 minus 12 is 0. And that leaves me with x alone, which is the goal. I also need to do the 30 minus 12. So solving that by arithmetic, you can find that x equals 18. We're going to put that in what is called set braces. They look like sideways seagulls. So if you need help drawing them, you're just going to draw a seagull and then turn your paper. So when we solve an equation, we want you to have the ability to check your work. So we're going to do something called the check. The check will look very similar to when we saw the word evaluate and we plugged in values for variables. The first line is always the original. So even before we rewrote that subtraction, we had 30 equal to x minus negative 12. The second line is where we're going to plug in what we got for x. So we got 18, so 18 is going to be replaced for the variable x. Now, following the rules of subtraction here, you can rewrite the subtraction if you want, but you'll also have a calculator. If you choose to rewrite it, you're going to do 18 plus 12, and you'll get 30 equal to 30 on both sides. Now, the important thing to remember is if you get the wrong answer, your check will not equal the same thing on both sides. You'll get something like 30 equals 8, which is clearly not the case. What you want to do is leave the check if it doesn't work. That's an indication to go back to your work and check your answer. And you don't want to fudge checks or do a fake check. That tells me that you understand maybe your answer's wrong, and if you have time on a quiz or test, you can go back and check your work. Let's take a look at example 2. We have on the same side as the variable this time is b, we have addition. To undo addition, we're going to subtract 8 from both sides, like so, underneath. Draw your line. What happens when you subtract 8 from 8 is that the 8's cancel out. We've got 0 there. And the b is the only thing left on the right side. We're going to take negative 5 minus 8, which is really like negative 5 plus negative 8. That gives me negative 13. So again, in our set braces, we're going to put negative 13. The set braces tell you the set of all answers, and for this we only have one answer, and it's negative 13. Let's take a look at the check. We've got our original, our plug-in, and if you solve on both sides you should be getting negative 5 equal to negative 5, because negative 13 plus 8 gives you negative 5. Example 3 looks a little different. We have x on the left side of the equal sign now, and we have addition, but we have the negative 2 out in front. So negative 2 is being added to x. So again, we still need to undo addition of negative 2. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. We could do minus, because subtraction undoes addition, negative 2, to both sides. but that's going to get a little sloppy. You have the potential of maybe dropping one of these negative signs and then getting confused. The other way you can do this, since we're subtracting a negative 2, is you could also add a positive 2 to both sides. Remember that your goal is to get the constant to zero out. Negative 2 plus 2 gives me 0, and I just have x left, which is what I want. 14 plus 2 gives me 16, and put your answer in set braces. Let's try the check. Here's my original, plug in, and simplifying on both sides, you're going to see negative 2 plus 16 does give me 14, and 14 equals 14, telling me that my answer is right. All checks should be 3 lines. Let's take a look at example 4. Example 4 looks a little different than examples 1 through 3 because this time we have x as a numerator in a fraction over negative 8. Remember that fraction bars can also represent the operation division. And to undo division, we're going to do the inverse operation, which is multiplication. So what that means is I'm going to multiply by negative 8 on both sides. And when I do that, it's like taking negative 8 times 1 over negative 8. Remember, you could add a denominator of 1 under the 8, and you would get negative 8 over negative 8, which you know can simplify into 1. And that's what we want in these kinds of problems. We want 1x. So these 8's kind of cancel each other out, and x drops down. 11 times negative 8 on the right side gives me negative 88 as my final answer. Put that answer in set braces. Remember, you can turn your paper if you want and draw kind of a seagull figure. Here I have my check. Here's my original. I'm going to plug in negative 88 for my x. And then remember, you can type this in with your calculator 2 ways. You can type in negative 88 fraction bar negative 8 and hit simp or equal. You should be getting 11. You can also type it in with a division sign and then hit enter as well. For example 5, we've got negative 60 equal to 12x. Remember that if we don't have anything in between the 12 and the x, there is automatically multiplication there. And to undo multiplication, we're going to do division to both sides. So if we divide both sides by 12, that will turn the 12x into a 1x, which is what I want, and negative 60 divided by 12 is a negative 5. Draw that in set braces, and then let's do the check. We've got our original negative 60 equals 12x. We're going to plug in negative 5 for x, and then if you do that multiplication on the right, you will get negative 60 equals to negative 60, which is correct.